These 5 things are sabotaging your fat loss goals. Hey guys, what's going on? This is Paul Ravella from ProPhysique.com, your fat loss expert. I've helped thousands of people lose body fat, and I've noticed that these 5 things are very common when I get on a consultation or I talk to somebody about their struggles with fat loss. I see this over and over, and success leaves clues, guys. And so the people that I've helped that have had success, we've solved this problem. So first things first, what is the most common problem I see when it comes to fat loss? Without a doubt, emotional eating. Now, what does that mean, emotional eating? It means you're good all week. You're clean eating all week. You've got your plan, but something comes up, a stress at work, a stress at the house. And instead of being accountable, you just decide that, you know what, you've had a good job this week. You've been seeing some progress on the scale, and you go a little bit off plan. And it doesn't feel like a lot, but when you're not accountable, it's very easy to overconsume the calories that you need. And honestly, one meal a week can prevent you from losing body fat. And this is something that I really regularly see. So instead of being focused on an emotional event or stress as something to lash out with food with, be accountable to yourself. Try to avoid that through some tactics that you can use. Now, I love doing things like having some low calorie options, having meals planned ahead. I love doing things like diet sodas because they satiate me, and just understanding that I don't need to do what I'm doing because I have a goal. And when I get to number 5, it's gonna really drive it home why that is important. So emotional eating can also be something that happens on the weekend when we've been crushing it Monday through Friday, or a friend invites us out, we have a drink, we have another drink, we go out on the boat, we go to the beach, we go to the pool, and everyone's having a hot dog and everyone's having some fun foods. And I'm not opposed to doing that, but you need to be accountable for that and plan ahead for that. So don't let 5 days of progress be stalled by a weekend. When I tell you reason number 5, you're gonna really understand how valuable that is for helping this goal. Something that very few people think about when it comes to fat loss is sleep. But yet I find that sleep neglect has a huge impact. Now, what is the biggest reason for this? Well, because when you get enough sleep, it actually lowers hormones like cortisol that are gonna help you be satiated. Also, our metabolism really picks up at the end of our sleep cycles. So if you are constantly cutting your sleep cycles short, A, you're getting the negative effect of probably increasing your hunger through hormone changes, but B, you're also missing out on those metabolic benefits that really happen. You're shortcutting your recovery. And so it's a compounding variable that some people don't pay attention to, and it's not through any fault of their own. Listen, I am a victim of this as a father, as a coach, as someone who puts a lot of other people's needs before mine. Hey, sometimes sleep gets pushed back. And I can tell you, when you really start to pay attention to your sleep and create a pattern for yourself, it really has a positive impact on making progress. All right, number 3 is a little bit different because it's about how we train. And something that I've noticed with a lot of people is that they hop from program to program, and they're constantly trying to challenge themselves in new ways in an effort to lose body fat. Let me remove this from your vocabulary. We do not lose body fat on a training program, okay? Training programs are designed to help you build muscle. This is through consistently progressing on overload and just getting those workouts in over and over again. You don't need to constantly be changing your training program. If you're training with too high intensity, you can also increase hunger. So what are we focused on in the gym? Putting on muscle, training intelligently. What loses the body fat? The caloric deficit that we create through our diet and through our cardio. So stick with your training program, especially if you're enjoying it. Now, number 4 is important because I think in our current age with technology, what we have is we have an app that tells us how many calories to eat, an app that tells us how many calories we burned, an app that tells us how good our sleep was. We have an app that probably tells us if we're a good or bad person, but the idea is that we can start to trust that data. Let me remove that stigma. There was a study out of Stanford that showed that the calories burned in cardio sessions was off by more than 80% on some exercise machines, right? So how do we know how many calories we burned in a session? I don't put a lot of emphasis on that, okay? Sometimes what I'll do is I'll actually track the calories burned in an exercise session, but I don't trust it when it says 400 calories. I simply look at that and go, okay, if I burned 400 calories in an hour, if the next time I go in and I burn 425 calories, I've then progressed. So how do we know if we're in a caloric deficit? There's only one way to know. You're losing body fat, okay? I've heard people tell me like, I've been in a calorie deficit for 6 months and I haven't lost any body fat. Guess what? You have not been in a caloric deficit for 6 months, right? Now, you might have been in a caloric deficit Monday through Friday, but that weekend came and you ate emotionally, or you just enjoyed the weekend a little bit. You put some calories in that you didn't need. You put that body fat back on, and on track, you got back Monday. Well, guess what? Over the course of a week, you were not in a caloric deficit. You were in a maintenance phase. And when I explain number 5, you're going to understand why people finally reach their goal. Are you guys ready for it? Why do people finally reach their goal? Simple. A deadline. When you hire me, when you work with a coach, when you set a goal, when you set a deadline, you have accountability to that date. As a competitive bodybuilder, this is something that I learned very early on when I signed up for my first competition. I don't suggest everybody signs up for a competition. In fact, that's why I started the Pro Physique Transformation Challenge, where you see amazing transformations like these on the screen. But the idea is that there is a date, there is a deadline, there is a reason to say, I'm not gonna have that drink, I'm not gonna stay out late, I'm going to plan my meals ahead. There is a reason to put yourself first. If you say that your goal is to lose body fat, your actions have to match, okay? You can't just say, I'm trying to lose body fat, but then not set up a plan and an approach that has a deadline. Otherwise, what ends up happening is you start restricting calories, you start to regret that you're in a fat loss phase because you kind of feel like you're struggling, but you're not getting the body fat off that you want to get off. So why do the people that enter bodybuilding shows and why do the people that enter our transformation challenge lose so much body fat? We have a deadline. We have a date. We know we're taking a picture. We know we're getting on a stage. We know we have a photo shoot. Whatever it is, give yourself a deadline. And if you're looking for that next goal, join our transformation challenge. It's kicking off here very soon. It's going to be fantastic. It's going to give you a private group, 100 training plans, meal plans, private community for support. And we're also doing a discounted option for coaching for the period of the challenge. So if you guys want a consult, go to prophysique.com, no cost on the consult, and we will help you reach your goals. But yeah, these are the things that I see most commonly sabotaging people's fat loss goals. All right, guys, I'll talk to you tomorrow.